Okay, so to show that two triangles are congruent, we talked about that we have to show that the corresponding parts are congruent. So the angles that correspond with each other in the triangles need to be congruent, and then the sides that correspond with each other in each triangle need to be congruent. So you'd have to show that 3 pairs of angles are congruent and 3 pairs of sides are congruent. But we don't actually have to show all 6 of those corresponding parts are congruent. We have a set of shortcuts here, 5 different shortcuts that will be sufficient enough to say that the triangles are congruent. So in 4.3, the ones we're going to talk about are side, angle, side, and side, side, side. In 4.4, we talk about angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle. And then in 4.5, we talk about HL, which stands for hypotenuse leg. But for us, we're going to be doing side, angle, side first. So if we can show that 2 pairs of sides are congruent, and the included angle, meaning the angle between the 2 sides that are congruent, that's going to be sufficient enough to show that the triangles are congruent. And then likewise, side, 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 that's right, 3 S's there. So if we can show that all 3 pairs of corresponding sides are congruent, we don't need to show that any of the angles are congruent. It'll be sufficient enough to say that those triangles are congruent. And the idea here is if you have, like for side, angle, side, if you have the length of a side, like say it was 3, and then you had an angle 45 degrees, right? And then let's say this side was 5 or something, okay? You're going to be able to form a triangle here, right? This is what's given. If you draw anything like that, if you draw, in any orientation, if you have a 3, right, and then you have a 45 degrees, and you have a length of 5, it doesn't matter what orientation you have it, these triangles are going to end up being congruent. If you have those parts the same, there's only one triangle you can draw. You can't draw different triangles with different lengths or different angles. They would have to be the same. All right, and the same thing with side, side, side. If you have a triangle with side 4, side 3, and side 5, right, that ends up being a right triangle. But it's not important. If you have side lengths 3, 4, and 5, there's only one triangle you could draw. You can draw it oriented in different ways, right? So 3, 4, 5. But when you do a set of rigid transformations, they're going to map onto each other. So the idea here is if you have 3 sides, 3 corresponding sides are congruent, there's only one possible size and shape for your triangle that you can draw. And if you have 2 sets of sides and the angle between them, there's only one possible triangle you can draw. Okay, and that's going to be the same for these other shortcuts. This is for 4.4, and this will be for 4.5.